It's really, really exciting to welcome Glenn Fogel, the CEO of Booking Holdings. Booking.com is, of course, their principal product. It is one of these. If you're a sort of a fan of business and how companies evolve and innovation, it is really one of the great stories. I recently was at a lunch with Glenn in New York City with a gentleman called Steve Ratner, who's kind of a legendary investor. And he sat with Glenn, and afterwards Steve Ratner said, "Oh my God, that company went from this to this." So what did he mean when he was like, "Oh my God"? He said, what was he? Well, you had the conversation.
Yeah,
I think he was talking about money.
Yeah, he was. So I've been at the company now 25 years. So 2000, and people are old enough to remember that was the .com boom time. But of course, then the .com collapse, and our stock was down to, on a reverse split, $6 a share, and we've gone from $6 a share to yesterday 4,800. So that's 800 times.
Oh my goodness!
And that's over a 30% compound annual growth rate each year for a quarter of a century. So a market cap of 160 billion approximately.
Oh my goodness!
So, and it's he and it's interesting because Steve's a brilliant guy.
It randomly coincided with you joining the company, right?
It's one of those things where correlation does not mean causation, but I'll take part of it. Okay. How about that? I'll take part of it.
That's amazing. And what is it, just to sort of to tease out a bit, what is the heart of the Booking.com sort of idea or differentiation? What has driven that incredible growth?
So what it is, and this is what the story of the last 25 years, is technology. Technology enabling us all to do things better, faster, easier, efficiency. And it's interesting because you mentioned in your little intro, you're talking about people who've given up on their offline travel agent to do it online, doing it digitally. And you look at that change. I just had to look at some statistics. 70% reduction in the number of human travel agents since 2000 to 2021 is the stat I saw. And that's really interesting because that's great for shareholders, it's great for productivity, it's great for the bottom line. But the question is, so what are those people doing now who used to be travel agents? And that's kind of the story right now that I think a lot of people are wondering about with AI, generative AI. Things are accelerating in terms of the ability to do things more efficiently, but that efficiency, that changeover is also going to have incredible ramifications for our society. I'm not sure how many people really recognize how fast this is happening.
Well, I mean, talk about your own company. I mean, presumably you've been using technology to automate as much as possible, to manage your cost structure.
Yeah.
Has your headcount grown significantly across these years, or has that been maybe a source of your profitability?
Well, it has, but it's different ways. So we have, of course, we're hiring more people who are experts in generative AI, which is fairly new. Whereas people, here's a thing that we're just looking at. So when we first started out, we operate in over 200 countries and territories, which is interesting because there's only about 180 countries in the UN, but we include things like, well, Puerto Rico, we count separately so we can build up the number higher. But we do over 40 languages. And back in the day, in 2001, 2002, 2005, we had an incredible number of human translation people around the world, putting into these 40 different languages, all the content, description of a hotel. You want to see it not just in English, but have people in India, Hindi, or whatever part of the world. And then though, technology comes in, and you start being able to do it with machine language translations. Not as good as humans, but you don't need quite as many because now the humans are more like checking it and making it a little bit better. Well, nowadays, you don't need a human. You can make translation better than humans can do pretty much. So what happened to all those people? Those people don't work with us anymore, but we have a lot more technologists. So for us, we have about 25,000 employees around the world. But I'll tell you, it's going to be a very interesting thing. I go away from my industry, I go to other industries. I go to things like, is anybody taking a Waymo taxi? Anybody here? All right, good, okay. Now, obviously that technology is going to be really good for trucking. You mean know how many people are commercial drivers, make a living driving a truck in the United States? Anybody know that number? The number is 3 million approximately. 3 million people, okay? Now, add on to that, how many millions of people work for Uber or Lyft? And how many people add on are driving something for DoorDash? All of those jobs are extremely not at risk, will be going away, okay? That's obvious. I mean, you don't need to be a genius or have this incredible, crystal ball. You were in the Waymo. You know that this is not far away. Or maybe you'll see a drone delivery instead of a DoorDash deliverer. So now we're talking millions of jobs, millions. What is going to happen? And we've seen this before, obviously. I mean, you and I we know this.
Does a company have any responsibility for this sort of moral quandary, or is it just the government's problem and the economy's problem?
Well, I'd say it's interesting about that because in today's market economy, even if I felt it is our responsibility, I cannot do something because my competitors aren't doing it. So we end up with a difference between the companies and the shareholders. They're not going to say, oh, Glenn, you're doing good work. It's very nice. You're helping out society. They're going to say, your return is not nearly what your competitors is. So please, we're going to replace you with someone else. So that's why you really do need a government to put out the rules, the guardrails, that we all play by the same rules. But here's the thing. We've seen these changes before in technology, right? I mean, everybody understands the story of the Luddites in northern England and the wool, the weaving, and they went rioting and all that. We know that story. And we know where America went from rural to urban. But that took a lot of time. Now we're having this time in a very, very short number of years. And that, you have a societal thing where things can break. So what we need, I absolutely believe, we need leadership at the very top levels to understand how can we come up with ways to make this change, which is not stoppable. You cannot stop this technological change, but make it so that we have a
That's a public sector change.
It's absolutely.
Public sector change. So just a quick diversion. You're an incredibly competitive business. It's a little, it reminds me of the news business a bit, and the switching costs are virtually zero for a customer.
Totally.
You can just
Did
flip
you say
between.
this to Brussels, by the way, when you have a chance? Because they called us, they say we're a dominant player.
You had the EU, the entire EU sort of finance ministry was here yesterday with them. But see,
don't get me
and we wanted you to come for 2 days. But
I would have loved to have had another conversation with them.
Next year. Can I sign you up? Okay, good. Yeah. So I go on booking.com and I use it a lot when I started Semafor because I no longer had 2 assistants and I was working out of my kitchen and I was planning my business trips. It's just better. I mean, it's a bit like that Amazon feeling when you're just like click and it's all done and you just feel this sort of lightness.
It's not even done. It shows up in 2 hours.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. But so as the chief product officer, in addition to the CEO, which I assume that you take that mantle as well, what is the magic that some companies are able to accomplish in that user experience? Is it technology? Is it design? Is it people? What is it?
Yeah, it's all of those things. It's having a vision and then trying to execute and make it happen. So I believe in our story is that the way you're doing travel right now is incredibly frustrating. I know that because I travel too, and it's a real frustrating experience many times. And you think, why can't this be a better way? And it can be a better way. And my vision is that you have in your phone, you have essentially the equivalent of a human travel agent who is always aware of what your needs, wants, desires are, and is always looking out for you. I mean, you think when you're on a holiday or a vacation with your family and you're in a city, I mean, why aren't you getting offers coming to you saying, hi, you got the 2 kids there. Do you know there's this great museum kids would love? It's 3 blocks down the thing and we can give you a great discount. Do you ever get that? Of course not yet. But that is something that we're going to do. Or even more so, you're going to Amsterdam. Okay, everybody in Amsterdam likes to take the canal trip. Everybody does that. Everybody pretty much also goes to the Rijksmuseum, great museum, okay? We get you those tickets, of course we can do that. But what's more important is you got the tickets for the canal boat on Thursday. You got the museum on Friday. It's Tuesday. Okay, now the weather forecast, though, we know, everybody, it's easy to know it, but we know what the weather is and we make a change for you and we tell you, we say, hey, it's gonna rain on your canal boat, but it's gonna be sunny on the day you're going to the museum. Why don't we switch this for you just press, click, and it's all done for you. That's the type of advice. That's what you want, and much more so. How many times you get the little notice saying, your plane is delayed 3 hours? That's not very helpful, okay? That's really not helpful when you're already at the airport. What would be helpful is that it's going to be delayed 3 hours, but we can get you on another flight of a different carrier. Because the carrier that you're delayed, they're not going to be offering you up to go on to the other one, right? We can switch that for you, and it'll only be an extra $25.
But Glenn, those are amazing visions.
Yes.
How do you make them a reality? Is it like
Well,
talent business? Is it like is there like a developer that does it, or is it like some amazing designer? Is it a strategist?
It's being able to get the 25,000 people in our company excited to make it happen. I haven't coded for a living since 1985, okay? And I wouldn't even know how or what to do now, okay? I can't do that part. What I can do, and my sole real job, my biggest job is the idea and then making people enthusiastic that they will go out and take that hill today. And that's what we're doing. But the thing,
So it's a cultural thing.
It absolutely, culture, right? Doesn't culture eat strategies and how it works?
That's, yes. So I want to switch gears a bit. Ken Griffin, who's one of the co-chairs of the World Economy Summit, was sitting in that chair 2 days ago, and we were talking about the global economic situation, the policy shifts of the Trump administration, and obviously the shock of these larger tariffs. He argued, he thought the tariffs were obviously excessive and problematic, but he actually argued something different. He felt like the most dangerous thing about the recent policy choices actually was the tarnishing of brand America. This idea that America is a notion, it's a concept that is given us so many benefits and so much value. People dream of America as this place that they trust, that they can do business in, that they want to study in, the best universities, and that all these different moves are really, really potentially, he didn't say irreversible, but really, really setting that back. You're in 200 countries. What's your perspective on that?
No, I mean, we saw the numbers come out very recently from our government about the inbound people in the month of March, and there certainly has been some countries, people there are not coming to the U.S. If you look at the numbers from 2019 and then compared to 2024, travel industry globally is up, yet the number of people who are visiting the U.S. is actually down from what it was in 2019 when you look at 2024. And that actually creates a deficit for us in terms of travel. We have more outbound people than inbound. Of course, when you look at a balance of trade, you see that when we are sending people, when we get people to come in, that's like an export. Okay, that's how the money works. It's pretty easy. I think you all understand that. So we want more people to come in for our economy than we want people going out and spending the money in France. And that's not what's happening. Now, what are the reasons for that? Certainly, one of the things is I think Ken was right in terms of the brand has been tarnished for sure, absolutely, because I'm there and I hear it. People say, I don't want to go to the U.S. right now. For our business, that's okay though, because we are so international and people don't want to come to the U.S., they're going to go somewhere else.
Maybe people want to leave the U.S. too.
We're talking holidays, 2-8 things. But the issue really is, think about the things we're not doing when compared to other countries. Other countries have a minister of tourism. We don't have somebody that's their sole job. We have somebody, 2 levels down the commerce now, which still hasn't been funded. Think about why somebody doesn't come here. Well, if you go to JFK and you're in a 4-hour line just to enter the country, when you go back home to your home country and they say, how was your trip to America? And they will say, it sucked. We got there, it was 4 hours lined up and oh my God, that's not good. And every single person in that line would have paid $25 more to reduce it to just 10 minutes. They would have paid it. So if we just have the way to do that, we have big things coming up soon for America. We have the Olympics coming. We got the World Cup coming. Are we going to show a good side? Are we going to do a thing and make people, hey, coming to America is great and help build that? That's good for our 10% of jobs in America relate to the travel and hospitality industry, okay? Why would we want to do anything that would hurt that? We want to build that up. That's really important. And I really hope that people who have the power to make it better are able to start doing that.
We just have a very short time left, but What are your thoughts? A lot of the CEOs here talked about leadership in a crisis. Obviously, the changes that we've seen in policies, the pause that people are making. What are your thoughts generally from your career on leading through a crisis?
Well, part of it is recognizing that all things do pass. It's don't get too panicked. I mean, we've been through everything over these 25 years. And obviously, the dot-com implosion was a horrific thing, and then we ended up coming back. But you ended up with a great financial crisis. We had volcano in Iceland, shut down travel in Europe for 10 days. We've had tsunamis. We've had wars. So, Russian invasion of Ukraine was the night after we did our earnings announcement, and that made a big change because we had been previously the #1 player in Russia. These things happen over and over again. So you recognize the pattern that, yes, it's going to be very hard and you've got to deal with it immediately and make better. But you recognize that in the long run, things will work out okay if you maintain a level, thought in your mind. Don't panic. And I'll tell you right now, I am more optimistic than I've ever been about the long term. This incredible Cambrian explosion of new things coming from Gen AI. I mean, all the new tools, all the new things, it's going to be fantastic in all parts of every industry and everything. It's going to be great. That being said, we have to make sure that we have the right guardrails, we do the right things in terms of safety, and in addition, we understand what the consequences of these new ways to do things, what that does to our society in terms of people's jobs.
All right. Well, with that optimistic note, thank you so much, Glenn.